Along with many Christians, I've been thinking through the same-sex marriage debate, and this is a question that has come from that pondering. This is quoting Matthew 5:32. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife except on the ground of sexual immorality makes her commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Matthew 19 verse 9, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, this is Jesus speaking, except for sexual immorality and marries another, commits adultery. And this is 1 Corinthians 7 verse 11. But if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband should not divorce his wife. Question 1. Is it a double standard to refuse to marry a gay couple but to agree to perform the marriage of a Christian couple where one or both of the couple have been previously divorced, not for sexual immorality? That's the first question. And the second one, why aren't we more vocal about divorce and remarriage? Great question. Here's my response. Firstly, I thought I was vocal about what marriage was and why divorce is not good. That's me being defensive. So I've also written articles about this, which I've copped a lot of heat over. In fact, I've had people unfriend me on Facebook. I went from 2 friends to 1 friend. And because I wrote on what marriage is, in fact, I've written a lot of articles on what marriage is, and I actually agree with the spirit of the question. Our biggest issue, as far as marriage goes, is not same-sex marriage. Again, we're not trying to justify it. In fact, we can't justify it. But the biggest issue by far is adultery and divorce. Huge. When Jesus lists sexual sins, he always puts adultery at the top of the list. It is the worst sexual sin. It's the worst. One of the things that I do with a couple, and by the way, the person who's asked this, I didn't prepare them for marriage, and any couple that I have prepared for marriage, of which is sometimes about 24 to 30 people a year, I explain to them as we go through the wedding vows that they're about to make a vow, till death do you part, for better or for worse. And one of the questions I ask is, what do you think worse looks like? What does worse look like? And every married couple here should ask that question right now, because you should look at your spouse and remember that vow. You made a vow to be married for better or for worse. And I think betrayal is worse. I cannot think of anything worse than being betrayed in a marriage. It's a horrible thing. And when it comes to marrying, let me back up. When it comes to a Christian who is in a marriage that it appears there is irreconcilable differences, of which I have only really played a pastoral role in maybe 2 in my 30 years or so of pastoring. When it comes to that, this is what I say. And again, if you're one of those people, you'll know I say this. If you feel that you cannot and will not reconcile, you cannot get divorced so that you can enter into another relationship. Because that would seem to me to be a direct violation of these scriptures that have been referred to. And that means if you are saying this marriage is irreconcilable and you are divorcing, this is the language I use. If you choose to do all you can to work toward reconciliation, you will have my support and respect. If you feel you just cannot do that, then you'll have my support. And what that looks like is this. I will say to them, you have to approach this with a view that you will never marry or enter into a significant relationship again. And it's based on those very scriptures that have been cited. And in the instances that I've been involved with, that's exactly what's transpired. When it comes to marrying people in the context that's been asked, generally, I don't do it. I have refused to marry people. When it comes to areas that are perhaps grey, where perhaps you can't be absolutely clear that this person divorced for all the right reasons, of which I don't think there are many, then what I do is I give counsel about that. But this is hopefully the takeaway point I want every young person who is not yet married to hear. And it's one of the things that I stress in pre-marriage counselling with any young couple. When you make a vow for better or for worse, you have to accommodate that worse looks like being betrayed in your marriage, which is the possibility that your spouse may commit adultery on you, and you're making a vow that even if that happens, you will stay in that marriage. You will fight for your marriage. You will work toward reconciliation. That's the vow you're making. 1 Corinthians 7 makes it, I think, reasonably clear that can't just be a one-way street. What if the other person physically leaves, divorces you, and remarries? In that instance, again, that divorce should not be entered into with acrimony, that is, I want to hurt that person, or with an intent, great, that's a relief, now I'll be able to marry whoever. That, I would suspect, is an unethical way to approach a divorce. One final point is a pastoral point. We are going to see more and more broken families come into this church. More and more people affected by divorce. And we are not going to condemn them, we are going to support them, and we have not walked in their shoes. We do not know what it's like. I used to be very, very black and white on this. And then when you hear the story of the wife that's being beaten up, physically beaten up, verbally abused and sexually abused, you have to think, this is not right. And I have, on very rare occasions, encouraged separation as a way of protecting both a wife in a marriage who's being abused and her children. Very rarely do I do that, but when it's needed, I will. And I think that's a pastoral response as well. So if you have any qualms about how we deal with marriage and remarriage and divorce and things like that, then come and talk to me privately. But I've given you the broad principles. Why are we not more vocal about divorce and remarriage? Yeah, you're right, we should be. Every young person coming through this church should know marriage is a sacred institution. In fact, God has given 3 institutions to preserve society. Those 3 institutions are, number 1, the church, number 2, government, number 3, family, which starts with marriage. And those are the 3 things that God uses to curb evil in any society.